Both their eyes were watching God and In Search of Our Mother's Gardens were set in the era where women were seen as lesser than. For example, the way Jo Sparks treated Janie could be compared to the lack of recognition Black women were given in the essay. Along with this, the marriage ideals were similar. Both pieces of writing expressed the normality of marrying young, sometimes as young as 17. The situation in which women were being overworked applied in both of the stories. Jo Sparks forced Janie to work in the shop the same way women were being treated in Search of Our Mother's Gardens. Specifically, Walker mentions, her day began before sunup and did not end until late at night. Black women's skills were suppressed. They were unable to pursue their dreams like art or music. The main character, a poet by the name of John Toomer, gets a deeper glimpse into how the culture was being suppressed for Black women and began to wonder how it managed to stay alive after so long. He expands on the fact that Black women had limited rights and were punished for simple things such as reading or writing.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Shayla and I will be interviewing you. First off, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So, how do you feel about In Search of Our Mother's Gardens?
So, I realized that the speaker, Alice Walker, mentions her mother's garden throughout the essay. I also realized that she uses a lot of fruit in that discourse.
Walker starts the story solemnly and anxiously as she looks back on the older generations who couldn't take part in their passions due to restricting societal ideals. Walker employs an optimistic tone as she hopes for current generations to take part in their creativity and pass it down to their children. She has hope that African American women can move on from the trapping stereotypes of society and stray away from the roles that they were forced to take. With this encouraging tone, she calls African American women to embrace their culture and language as a weapon to reject oppression.
Hi Hannah. Thank you for joining us. What is your main takeaway of the essay?
One of my main takeaway was I liked how she talked about the Black women's culture and their identity. And Alice highlights the role of creativity in Black women's culture. She explores the idea of women's art, an art that Black women create for their enjoyment and expression rather than for commercial purpose. She argues that this art is a form of resistance against the dominant culture that has historically excluded and oppressed Black women.
Stop! You can't come in.
Why not?
No woman allowed. Leave.
Dreamed dreams that no one knew, not even themselves. Saw a vision no one could understand. The identity and lives of many African American women were shaped and constrained by dominant cultural narratives. These narratives have shaped how people perceive African American women and how they also perceive themselves, demonstrating their internalized oppression and self-doubt. For Black women, their identities have also been influenced by negative stereotypes and harmful myths. The cultural heritage of Black women has been erased and suppressed by dominant cultural norms.
Toomer finds himself in an atmosphere where women are being used only for the sole purpose of reproduction. He can get first-hand experience in the 20s walking through their lives without knowing. He calls the women pitiful and recalls they are mothers and grandmothers instead of workers and citizens. The goddess comes, she moves divinely fair, olive and laurel binds her golden hair. Wherever shines this native of the skies, unnumbered charms and recent graces rise.
In the story, Walker explains how in society, being an artist lowers the status of Black women rather than raising it, but Walker encourages women to take part in it. Black women have been systematically denied access to their cultural heritage, including their traditions, their stories, and their language. Many Black women experience a sense of disconnection from their cultural roots, a sense of cultural alienation, and a loss of identity. Language was used as a tool of oppression and resistance in the lives of Black women. But language is not only a means of communication, but also expression and resistance. Women used language to erase and reclaim their identities and cultural heritage. By doing this, they were asserting their challenge against dominant cultural norms.